Okay, Shannon, take it away. Thank you everybody for coming also.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Gail. I really appreciate it. And thanks everyone for being here today. I know your time is precious. And so I will try to be efficient in what I present today and give you useful information. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation, and what I will do is go through the presentation. We'll have some questions at the end. Okay, so this is Website Works, improve or start a website for your business. So today what I hope to offer is that I'd like to have us all do kind of some work as we go through this. So I would encourage you to get a piece of paper and a pen, pencil, so you can write some things down that you will hopefully will be useful to you later. And today we will talk about starting with two main goals for your website. And then we'll go through three things that every site kind of needs to start with to get seen on Google, etc. And then I'm going to talk about some principles of marketing and how they apply to your website. And then I'm going to talk about this concept of your ideal customer and how to connect with them. So welcome. First, I'll do a little housekeeping. My presentation is about 40 minutes, although every time I try to time it, that changes, but just to give you an idea. And there will be time for questions at the end. And then at the end, also, I will share what I offer and also give you sort of a little bonus workbook for today, and that I will email to you later. And then I'd love to connect with everybody. Mostly I do Instagram and Facebook. So those are kind of my chosen channels. So I'm at Shannon Borg on Instagram. I'm Shannon, nice to meet you. And just a little about me before we start. I'm a writer and editor and a beachcomber. I love the beaches of San Juan Island. I lived on Orcas for about 3 years, and then I moved to San Juan 10 years ago. Well, yeah, almost 10 years ago, crazy. So I started out working for Seattle Magazine in Seattle. I wrote about food, wine, and travel. I've written a couple of books, Chefs on the Farm and The Green Vine, about wine. And when I moved to the islands, I worked for the San Juan Islands Visitors Bureau doing marketing. And then I quit all that, went back to art school and started to create art, but also coach people from my past marketing skills and business experience. So now also I build websites on Squarespace only, but I do give advice on other platforms. I have used WordPress before, but I switched to Squarespace. So that's me. And let's see. So I want to first talk to you about this idea of your business. Most people, the challenge I see with most of my clients is that you've spent a long time in your head and developing your ideas and your business, working really hard, adding value to the world, and living your passion. And then we come up against this thing called the real world, where we have to implement certain things like online sales or a marketing plan. And what about SEO and blogging and newsletters and all of these things that are really overwhelming. So today I hope to give you some ideas about just how to approach this really clearly. This is what my dad used to say: hold the phone, Louise. I just slow down, and I want you to think about some of your business foundations today, about being a leader for yourself in your own little empire, and think about your own values and vision before going forward, in order to not compare yourself to everybody else out there in the world. Okay. One of my coaches calls it the crap cycle, the cycle of reactivity and panic. So instead of that, we can slow down, look at what we really want to do, who we do it for, and have some clarity and some calmness around this whole process. So let's get started. So first, again, like I said, two main goals for your website, and we'll start there. So just a little foundation. One of my basic trainings in my coaching program is called the 4 Hats of Artists in Business. And I'm going to do a webinar later on in the spring about this concept. And it has really been clarifying and helpful to myself and to a lot of my clients to kind of think about your business as in different parts and the different hats you wear. So today we're going to talk about the operator hat. All right, this is your website, how you kind of build things and think about it. But there are the other parts where you really kind of start with your creator hat, what you create. Then you got to go into your leader hat, how you plan and think about your business as a whole. And then the operator is the nuts and bolts. And then the promoter is how you get out there and educate people about what you do. So if you're interested in that, that webinar will be coming up later this spring. So first, we're going to go into the two main goals for your website. Okay, so I got a lot of information about people's businesses, and I want you to think about what you want to do your website to do for you. Okay, so I've kind of identified these four main goals of pretty much any website. One is to show people where you are, what you do. Okay, so it's for people usually kind of a last minute thing. It's like they go to your website and they find you. Now people are using Google Maps and just Google in general. So the website isn't as essential, but what people forget is to put this information right on their website. And that just cuts the friction for people to be able to really find you easily. And then of course, what you offer. So showing people what you offer in a very clear manner, I think is really important. And a lot of websites don't do that. You kind of have to dig for it. Okay, so that's the one thing to keep in mind. Then the next thing that websites do, of course, is sell. And that's an online store or a way to connect with you with your services. And that should be really obvious, depending on what your business model is, like we talked about before. Then the third thing is systematize. How do people connect with you? And I'm going to go into a little section about how to prioritize these four things in order to come up with your top two goals. But the systematize idea is, how do they connect with you? How do you get their email address so you can keep them on your list? You know, how do they find out what is happening lately with your business? And usually that's a blog style news format. Okay. And then the last thing is, how do you solve problems for people? And that's customer service. Of course, that's about connecting. It might also be about frequently asked questions, or a blog post about how to use your product, or a blog post about how someone else used your product, or how to order your product, all of those things. So these are the four kind of basic things that websites do. And so I want you right now to think about how to prioritize the top two goals of your website. So to show would be your contact and about pages. To sell would be your store, your portfolio, or a blog. To systematize would be get emails for a newsletter and a blog. And to solve would be like a FAQ page and a contact page. So a brick and mortar store might really prioritize the show and the systematize. Okay, so you want to show people where you are, and then you want to get them on your newsletter so you can connect with them to tell them about your products. And then later on, you might have things that you do sell online, but those aren't your top priorities. Okay, an online product store, the top priority would be to sell products, and then to solve problems for people. So what happens if I order something and it's wrong, or how do I return something, or how do I get a different size? That would be a high priority to solve their problems. And then systematize and show might be later on down the road. The systematize is getting their email address so you can connect with them and tell them about new products that you're releasing. Okay, so if you're doing digital services, say, and that might be legal services or a nonprofit where you offer certain consulting, or like I do coaching online, and I do Zoom sessions, etc. So the first goal for that is to connect with people, get them on your email list, to be able to communicate with them through a blog, through a newsletter, and then so you can offer those products to sell to them or show them what you're doing. And then, of course, the show and the solve are a little bit lower priority because that's later on in the customer journey. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is just take a minute or 2 minutes for you to write down on your sheet of paper your top goals for your website. I'm going to go back to the 4 so you can see them. And then just take a second to write those down. You can also put those into the chat if you would like to, and we can talk about that later. Great. Osa says sell and systematize. Mike Meisner, hello, says show and sell. Awesome. Good. So you kind of get the idea. Aaron, yes, for folks, it's share the vision. And so that's like, in a sense, systematize where you can get their information so you can then send them a newsletter and a blog to help connect with those people and tell them your story. Good. Yeah. Keith, sell and solve because you're doing the furniture. Good customer service. That's great. Okay, good. So thank you, Julia, too. Okay, great. So I'll go back to this next. Okay. So now set that aside and think about that. And now next I want to think about 3 things that every website needs. Okay, so the first thing I think is clarity of purpose. People need to know why they're on your website, what you offer in a very clear way. And I can give you an example, maybe from like a basic artist website. When people go to an artist website, there may be 2 reasons for a website. Some artists work with galleries, and some artists sell their work online. Now, those are maybe 2 different tracks, because if you're just showing your work online, this is a portfolio, then you refer them to the gallery. But if you want to sell your work, then you're asking them with that call to action, buy my work. Okay, so you see that clarity of purpose. The next thing is to have a contact info on every page, which can be either at the top or the bottom, but that is kind of a pet peeve of mine too, and probably yours too, where you can't find how to connect with the person who has the business, or you can't find where they are, you can't find their address or their phone number, and that's one essential thing. And then the third thing is a call to action on every page. Now, you might think that this is too much, but when people, they get frustrated if they have to click back and forth. So to have that call to action really easy on every page, I think is really essential. Now, all of this is to be seen by your customers, but also to be seen by Google. Okay, so Google looks at header text, like subheader text, and then keywords. So the more clear connection between your clarity of purpose, what you do, those words about what you do, I sell jewelry in the San Juan Islands or online or anywhere, or I sell furniture. Those words are going to be found by Google. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this to be seen is by customers who find you through Google and through local means, and also for Google to find you so you come up higher in people's search. So here's a website, and this is Coffee Beans or Cool Beans, I think, or something like that as far as the URL goes. But I love their clarity of purpose. You can buy coffee or tea, shop coffee, shop tea. And these buttons or sections are very big, and you just see that at the very top of the page. So that's what I mean by clarity of purpose. They're not there to really educate you about coffee or educate you about tea on the home page. What they want you to do is purchase their products. So there's a difference in that approach. Now, I have a question about this. This is a linen site. When I clicked on here and their pop-up came up to get my email address, this picture came up, and I was a little confused about, Wendy, I'll talk about what a call to action is. Thank you for that chat question. So I was a little confused about this because when you look at this picture, I almost think, oh, is this a restaurant? Is this about food? Because it has food and people eating around a table. Well, it's a linen company and it says join the family, but it's not quite clear, so I felt a little confused about that. It's something a little more clear would be, I think what they're saying is there's a linen tablecloth. And when you buy these linens, you're then going to continue to be part of their family. To me, this is a little bit too much too soon. I would rather have that say, fine linens, or find the best linens or something. And then I would say, oh, that's why I'm here. I'm going to give you my email address because I know that then you will show me the finest linens. So see how just those little subtle things make a difference. Okay. A call to action is to have someone ask someone to do something. So if put in the chat, if you see what the call to action on this page is. Anybody have an idea? Oh, come on, you guys. Book lodging, right? Perfect, perfect. Great. And book now. Okay, so great. So book lodging online and book now. So, we in our everyday lives, we think, oh, we don't want to be in people's faces. We don't want to like overly sell. But the point is that when you go to a website, you don't want to waste your time, right? You want to know what you want to get what you want right away, because you're coming here, you want to find out how to do it quickly, and you want to move on to the rest of your life. And that is the goal. So call to action gives you that opportunity to create your action right away. And then you have a good feeling about the customer service of that company. So that's a call to action. All right. Sorry, my slideshow. Okay. So then here's the contact information. And this is the Seattle Art Museum. They have their contact information right in their footer, which, the header is at the top of the website and the footer is at the bottom. And the Seattle Art Museum has 3 locations. And so each one is very clear. They have their hours, their parking, and their directions. Hours, parking, directions for each section. Now you do have to click those to get that information, and hopefully it comes up right away and it's very clear, but that contact information is there. If you're just one company, I would really just put your phone number in the bottom and put your contact email address in the bottom. That's why it's good to have kind of a business email address versus say your personal, because then you don't get spam, and all of that, and it's easier. But I think it's really good to have a business like info at your URL. And you can do that in most, when you have a website host for most websites. I won't go into that today, but like for instance, Squarespace, when you start a Squarespace website, you get a Google Workspace. And so that's an email address that's hello or info@yoururl.com. So that is, I think, important, because then you don't have to worry about getting personal emails or getting lots of spam when you put your email address right on there. Now, I have kind of a pet peeve about contact forms. A lot of people put contact forms on their website. The problem with that sometimes is, depending on what device you're on or whatever, or you may not even really want to email that person right there. You just want their email address so you can do it later. And if the contact form does not give you the email address for this very reason, because people don't want to put it on there because they expect they're going to get a lot of spam. But that's frustrating for the consumer. Okay, so always just put your email address on there, and then you can filter out your spam, have a professional email address. And if you have questions about this, we can talk about this later in the session. But I find that, if you're a brick and mortar, put your address and a little link to a map and your phone number, and even the proprietor's name, that kind of stuff. Keep it on that professional level if you're a brick and mortar. If you don't want to put, your address, because obviously, you're working from home or something, then you don't do that. But you could put a post box, or you could put your email address, just so people know that there's a real person behind it. I have an example of this. I ordered something online from a website, and it turns out, I think this was a fraudulent website. They haven't sent me the product, and they won't give me their information online. Luckily, it was only like, $15 or something. But we want to know who we're dealing with, even if it's the internet. All right. So then the third section I want to talk to you about today is marketing. So one of my coaches, Christine Kane, has this concept of the 3 V's of marketing. The vision is why you do what you do. The vehicle is what you do, like what car you're getting into, the car of Facebook or the website or Instagram. And then the voice is how you speak, okay, and how you connect with people. So the vision are your values around what you want to experience, and why you're doing your business. So I would really love to hear some of people's values around why you have your business. And to me, a value is something like, if you're making jewelry or if you're making art, you value beauty or color or a heightened experience of luxury, or those types of things, knowledge, etc. So I would love to hear in the chat some of people's values of what you value and why you have your business. What's underlying all of this? Does anyone have any thoughts that you can put into the chat? Okay, Mike, we holistically and humanely manage our livestock to regenerate the land and produce a delicious and nutritious product for you and your family. Excellent. That's amazing. Yeah. So your values are all about sustainability and humane treatment of animals, etc. And so you see how you're going to have a different product, a different approach, a different marketing story than somebody like, Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer is all about like giving hot dogs to your kids and having a fun time. See how there's, and they don't emphasize the humane and holistic value because they have different values. They may overlap, but do you see how that really drives your marketing message? Anyone else? Mike, that was like the top. That was awesome. So Julia, connecting with community through the ritual of coffee. We solve the problem of isolation. I loved that. You have your cafe where people come out and they actually connect. This is Lopez, right? This is Isabel's on Lopez. Yeah, it's a community center as much as it is a cafe. It's where everyone knows that they can go out, by themselves and connect with people. And coffee is kind of the ritual that surrounds that. So yeah, so you understand the value of that is going to be different than a company that ships coffee beans, right? Same idea, but coffee beans will be more about, oh, all the different tastes you can get and exploration of coffee beans to your door. See, same company or same product type of thing, but totally different values around what you're doing. Seeing beauty in art, jewelry, and life. I love it. I transform wood that might ordinarily be burned into functional art. Awesome. So restoration, sustainability, I love it. And then let's see, Erin, stewardship and deep appreciation of this place where we live. That's amazing. So you see, all of that is really important because it's the baseline of every message that you put out there. Okay, great. Awesome. So then you think about your mission. Your mission is kind of what you are doing for people. Okay, so Tom's, the shoe company, their mission is to create shoes so they can give shoes away, right? Their value is to help people come out of poverty. And their mission is to create a pair of shoes. Every pair of shoes they sell, they give one away to a child in poverty. Okay, so you see the difference between the vision and the mission. And then for whom you're serving, that is kind of what we're going to talk about later, is kind of like your ideal client. A lot of people make the mistake of just putting a message generally out there to the world. But when you really focus on the people who you think will love your product and try to find them, then when they go to Google, those specific words, you will come up more than somebody who's more general about it. So furniture, I'm typing in furniture, IKEA may come up. Fine furniture, then you're going to have more of a handmade product would come up more to the top. Okay, so then your products and services, what you offer, etc. All right, so I'm going to stop for a second and give you a couple of minutes to write down a couple of what you value, what you think your mission is, meaning what do you offer, and why you offer it, and then who you want to sell that to, and then what problem do you solve for them. I love this, Julia. I solve the problem of isolation. See, that's a big concept, but it's very real to people. So this problem that you solve may be an emotional one as much as it is a physical one. Okay, so take a few minutes. Micah, I'm sorry, my glasses. I said Mike, I meant Micah. I know you, Micah. Hi. And when you're done, you can put done in the chat. So it doesn't have to be 4 minutes. Hi, Lance, I see you there. Okay, I think I'll give you one more minute or half a minute. I think a lot of people are done. Okay, great. So this combination of your two main goals for your website, and then this idea of your values, who you serve, what problem you're solving for them, really kind of adds up to you feeling like you have a better foundation and understanding about what this website is actually doing. I see some comments, friends of Lime Kiln Society's mission is to provide a unique experience for visitors through support and development of educational programs and activities related to Lime Kiln Point State Park, the location, the diverse ecosystems and historic structures. Inspire awe into action. That's great. So you see how when you have this idea of inspiring awe into action, then the website will want to do that straight away, right? So I can see a beautiful big picture of this awe that you're talking about, and then and then the calls to action would be buttons saying, activities or do this or do that. Okay, so you see how the values then move right into the action. And Keith, great for the furniture. Great thoughts. Okay, very good. Okay, next then. So the vehicle is the car that you're getting into or the train that you're going to be on. Your website, of course, is a vehicle. And your blog and newsletter and social media are also vehicles. So I want you to kind of think of the website as being the big ship, and the blog and the newsletter and social media as like being the dinghies, okay, that you're going out. And what you're going to try to do with the dinghies is go to shore. You're going to go meet someone where they are with this smaller vehicle. So they can come back to your website, so they can find your calls to action, so they can find you and engage with you. So I want you to just take a minute to write down your top 2 social platforms. I know that people tend to get overwhelmed. Like there's a lot out there, right? There's Pinterest and Instagram and TikTok now and YouTube and all of that. But think about either what's worked for you in the past or what you would like to do, and that's your top 2. Okay, great. Facebook and Instagram. That's where your people are, Yeah, Facebook. A lot of people are on Facebook and Instagram, especially locally, because people engage on that and they find out what's going on. But you can also think about ways to engage with those social media platforms more effectively. That's really not the subject for this webinar, although I would love to talk about that later and further in another webinar. There's also, of course, there's YouTube. And of course, YouTube is so amazing because people go there to solve problems, either to solve problems or be entertained. But most of the time, a lot of time, people are going to solve problems. So if you do have a product, say furniture or jewelry, and you have a top question that people are always asking you, like, how do I fix the clasp on my jewelry? Or how do I preserve the surface of my fine table? Then, a short video on that specific subject would be great if you wanted to venture into YouTube, because you could solve that problem with a fairly short video. And then you could take that video and take that link and send it out in your newsletter, like a little dinghy to go save someone from their problem. So that's something to think about. Okay, Beck says, but many friends and people I know avoid social media, which is why I really need to develop the website better. Okay, great. Yes, this is so true. So I do want to, now that you've kind of identified your social platforms, and I've given you this idea of like a YouTube problem to solve, I'd like you to write down 2 blog post ideas that solve your clients' top problems. Okay, so what would the headline of that be? And take a second for that. Great. Erin mentioned they use the YouTube for live webcam, and that's so great. As far as a problem that solves, I think, it right now, especially, people want to get in touch with nature, to sort of calm down, to feel less anxiety. You're really solving problems for people when you're entering beauty into their lives, right? Especially right now, and post-COVID and all of that. So think about that and like how you can help people heal, or specific problems that you're helping them kind of come to terms with, or whatever. Those are all really good. So great. I love that. Excellent. How art looks in your home. That's great. How to arrange it, how to hang it, how to choose a painting for your home as far as size goes or anything. I mean, some of those are kind of utilitarian, but those are really the questions that people have. They go, oh, I'm going to buy a painting, but gosh, what size should I get? So it seems obvious, and you're like, well, what size do you want? But there are factors that you kind of think about when you go and solve, when you can help people solve that problem for you. Okay, good. All right, so there we go. And then this last one, I want to think about your customer's journey. Okay, so can you see my cursor? Like, raise your hand if you can see my cursor. I made it big and blue. So say somebody comes to you through social media and they land on your website, then what do they do? Okay, so for this is like the customer journey. The outside is what they experience, and the inside is what you do with that for them. So they come in and they order a product, or they see your little pop-up and they sign up for your newsletter, or your sign up for your newsletter is somewhere in a blog post. So a sign up box, like a pop-up, is a call to action. A call to action is asking them to do something. And usually you don't ask someone to do something unless you give them something that they need or want for that. So a lot of times people do a little giveaway. So say you're on social media and you're going to talk to people about how to hang art in their house, or how to choose a painting. Sign up for my newsletter and you'll get this little email blog post about that question, or this special YouTube video, or a little PDF page about how to do it. So I'm sure everybody's had this kind of gift giveaway, opt-in idea, valuable free offer. And some of this sounds so salesy, but really there's been so many of those little things that have helped me a lot with little problems, especially starting my business, or redoing my house, or choosing a paint color, or how to build a wall, which I did. And believe me, I used YouTube a lot, etc. So we all use it and we think it's kind of sales, but really what it does is help us solve problems in our lives. Okay, so they sign up, and then their contact information goes into your email newsletter list, or a segment of that. So you may have one little sign up that talks about weddings. Okay, and so when you bring their email into your email list, you should segment that into the wedding section. Okay, so then what do they get from that? They get an initial welcome email from you that says, you're looking for a wedding in the San Juan Islands, and this is how to plan. This is my blog post about how to plan a wedding in the San Juan Islands. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Don't overcomplicate this. They sign up because they're going to get something. You segment them into a certain thing, and then you send them what they want or they need to help them answer their question. If they then order a product, the product ships, and then you make sure that they kind of keep on this newsletter where you're going to continue to communicate with them, and it kind of goes back and forth. Maybe if you get someone on your list, maybe you have 3 emails that says, this is who I am, this is what I do, here's your thing that you got from me, how I solved your problem, this is what I do, a little bit more about me, and then this is my latest offering. So that's what they call a welcome email sequence. And you can automate that. On Squarespace you can, on MailChimp you can. And this is kind of this journey. So at the end, I'm going to give you all access to this little workbook with all these sheets in it, and I'll send that to you later. So anyway, so that kind of shows where it's helpful to look at this and to think about where you have gaps. Okay. Do you have a pop-up? Do you have something that you can offer people? Do you have an email newsletter list that it can go onto? Do you have a welcome sequence? These are kind of steps that are down the road, but good to think about. And then you can continue to think about ways to grow that business, like maybe you offer a special discount periodically. But one thing I want to mention about discounts, it should connect to your values. If you're a fine artisan and you offer discounts all the time, that doesn't really balance out with your fine artisanship. Okay. So I actually encourage people to think of other ways rather than discounts to offer value. Okay. Because when people are going for a fine art object, often they don't want a discount. They feel like it lowers the value of what they're buying. Okay. And think about that for yourself. If I had lots of money and I was going to buy a $10,000 painting, I would not want that artist telling me, oh, I'll give it to you for 25% off, right? No, I want to spend the $10,000 on it if I had that much money. So the value versus discount thing is really interesting, and we can, just continue to think about that. Okay, so I'm almost done here, and then I'm going to give you just 1 minute to do this, draw out your customer journey. So think about that for a second. Okay. Okay, so this is how marketing works these days, especially online. You build your list by adding new emails to your newsletter list or whatever, whether that's on social media, by answering someone's question, and in doing so, giving them some value for their email address. Then you're getting the people who are actually interested in what you have as well. And then you create that content, which is answering their questions or creating a blog about the story behind your product, etc. And then you're sending your newsletter out to this list. And then in those newsletters, you can make further offers. So this is really the essence of all marketing, especially online today, but even with brick and mortar stores and artisans and all of that. So you might think about, like, take a screenshot of this if you can. It's something to remember. And even if you're not here, I don't want you to worry about that. Like, the main thing is on your website to have these contact information, and then have a clarity of purpose of you, a picture of this is what you do. And then you can build it from there. Okay. So we did this already a little bit, a couple of ideas, but I do want you to think about, if you have a specific new product or a specific customer story, or your story, just type it in the chat right now that you could share with people, that the person that really loves your product would really want to know. What if this story is too long? That's a great thought. Well, that gives you the opportunity to break it down into 3 short blog posts. Google loves long form content. It actually favors blog posts that are 1,500 to 2,000 words. And if you read the New Yorker, or if you read Brain Pickings, these blogs that are really long and you love them, that's a certain audience that really loves those long form. So it's your blog. You can do whatever you want. You can go into depth and people will really love that. I know I read some that are very long, and then other times I read really short things. It depends on what your subject matter is, I think. Great. Oh, see, I'd love to hear more about, the woodpepper holes in an armrest. So there's this idea of the short attention span, and then the long form content, and how do they even connect with each other, right? I think what people do is they look around, they go through a lot of information, but then when they find what they want, they will spend time with it. So this is really, really good to know. Also, yes, younger audiences, they flip around a lot, but they do dive into things as well. Okay, so I'll move on here. Okay, so then the idea of the voice is, who specifically are you talking to? Yes, your story about the fine art and the wood would be very different from someone who's looking for a wedding at the lighthouse. They may overlap, but there's all ages and all demographics, etc. So just thinking about who specifically you're talking to. Okay, so I have this little worksheet that I will send to you later, and we probably don't want to go into all of this now, but the first idea is vision. Who do you serve? What do you offer? What problem you solve? And what value you're bringing to them? And then how you message that. Vehicle, where you're putting that message, and then how to use that language for your specific ideal client. Okay, so I hope today that there was clarity around a couple of things. One, working on just 2 goals at a time. First, get your contact information up and get your call to action, your button, your book now button, or your big picture of you doing your thing, on your homepage. So there's clarity of what you do and how to contact you. Then thinking about your website in terms of baby steps and breakthroughs. So do set up a list of, these few things that you want to do, get started at, and go down the list. So your vision, your vehicle, and your voice, starting with your foundation, do your about page and tell your story, your contact and location, then develop your blog and gather email addresses, then your store and your offerings, and make it easy for people. And also, when you do a newsletter, send it to a couple friends or send it to yourself for sure, to make sure everything works, the links work, everything, is all clear, and make everything much more simple than you think it should be. So when you write a headline or a first little paragraph, go back and cut half the words out. But when you're writing then long form, you can take those simple ideas and extend them out using some headers and using some bullet points. So yes, people scan, but then when they find what they want, they will dive into that paragraph around it. Okay, so I hope that is clear. What I would like to do is answer a few questions, and then I'm going to tell you kind of what I offer as a service. So Gail, I wonder if you could unmute people.
Yep, I will do
I'd
that.
love to just hear your thoughts and your questions around any of this so far.
Oh, I'm working on it.
Oh, okay. While you're doing that, I'm going to just quickly run through what I do. So I coach artists, but I have also used, stopping that. I have a program called Practical Magic for Artists in Business. And then I'm creating a new course called Build Your Art Website on Squarespace, but it's really any website. But my niche audience is artists. So I'm focusing on that. If I get other people, that's fine. I can help them too. But it helps for me to have that focused ideal client. And then also I build websites on Squarespace only. So if you're in the market for that. So in my Practical Magic program, I help artists kind of like first get to know themselves first and who they are and how they work, so they can overcome some of their mindset and action issues. A lot of people have procrastination problems and all of that. And it's sort of like having them get awareness around some of these things. And then I take them down the road of how to do the nuts and bolts and like the operator things in their business and how to plan and set goals, etc. And then, then I build websites. So I build a Squarespace website and also give you this training course on how to then create it for yourself. I'm taking a waiting list on the course because I'm basically half done with it. But if you want to be on my waiting list, you can let me know. And then that course itself is $400. But in this, when I build your website, I give you 3 coaching sessions. Okay, so really that kind of adds up to a lot more than I'm going to charge you for it. So, but I want to kind of clarify that when you really commit yourself to this, you will make progress. It's taken me a while. It's taken me a long time. I'm a total procrastinator and I put things off. I set goals and then I only make it halfway, but slowly it has really made a difference in my business and where I am with my art and my goals for myself. So for your website, I'm now offering a price of $1,300. If you're interested in me building your website, you also get that training and coaching. So coaching is also included in the website build, 3 sessions to help you get past your mental blocks, etc. Okay, and then I'm going to send you guys this PDF workbook with all these little sheets in it. All right. The next webinar we're going to do is the 4 hats of artists in business. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up when the EDC sends that one out. And then, okay, questions I would love to hear. Any questions you have? Let's see. Somebody put some things in in the chat.
Oh.
Okay.
It's that one.
Let's
Yeah, I
go
was
ahead.
just curious, we live in an interesting place on an island. And so, and we've got our different seasons, obviously. So if you're online selling, it's all the same. But if you're trying to sell person to person kind of thing, and so we've got trying to sell to locals that kind of know us and understand everything that we're doing. And then you've got tourists coming in. So you've got two distinct audiences. What would you recommend on a website basis in communicating, or newsletters, or just basically outgoing? Should you separate those? Because it's two very different marketing messages.
Right. And this is really interesting. I worked for the Visitors Bureau, so I understand, all of the attitudes towards whether we want to bring people into the island and all of that. There's so much surrounding that. But one thing that I feel like really connects tourists and the locals is that everybody kind of wants the same thing, right? We want beauty. We want to experience this place. We want to have this emotional experience basically here. And so I think I personally, I wouldn't separate it into two websites.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would do is some messaging around that, around the emotional experience of your product or your business. So Bex, you work with tell me again your business.
Oh, well, I have 4, but Wine
Okay.
Bar is the big one. So
Yeah.
I'm the rooftop above the sushi place.
Right,
And then,
right.
but I also I have a cork couture business. So I do make cork products and seaweed products.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So this idea of what you're doing is sharing the island experience with people who are coming in. And so the locals feel like they want people to know that people actually really live here, because they feel invaded. We feel invaded sometimes, right? And so this idea of helping, a blog post or a newsletter or whatever could help actually educate people about island life and what that means. If you featured some specific islanders around, oh, we live here, and we want to share our product with you, but we also want to educate you about, how to experience that, how to come to the island and feel connected without just, getting an ice cream and getting back on the boat, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
so I think some of the messaging around that can overlap. Is that, I don't know, is that help? It's a longer conversation, but
yeah, it's a long, but I would also like to add to everybody that's on this that I would always love. Once I get my act together, I just opened last summer, but I do have an inside retail space that I would love to focus on local artists and such. So that's something
wonderful. Yeah, that's
that
so great.
I'd love to, help out with, whether maybe it's starting with, just postcards right now until I have to get all the setup done. But I would, really love to have like a local shop inside. I know we have the visitor center, of course, but but I'm across from the ferry and I love to welcome people to the island and introduce them to the local works and send them to the right places.
We'll talk. I love this collaboration. Thank you, Bex. I appreciate it. I'm going to go on to Micah's question about SEO. So SEO, is that basically just reusing your key terms on every page, or are we building that onto our into our pages behind the page? So it's both. So one thing I would really just encourage you to do is every time you put an image up on your website, just name that image what you think people will be looking for that's in the image. So if it's a necklace, if it's a jade and pearl necklace, you would title that jade and pearl necklace, because those words, even though your people on your website aren't going to see it, will show up on Google and it could come up in your listing. So, and you could put your location if that's what is important or whatever. So, you know, for Bex, it would be Wine Bar San Juan at Friday Harbor. You know, so when people Google Wine Bar Friday Harbor, that picture, because it's named that, will actually come up. And your name as an artist. Like if you put any image up on your website, you know, usually it just gives it a number. Change that number to a name, the name of the artist, the name of the piece, even like oil on canvas or something like that, and maybe a keyword like landscape or figure or something. So those naming your images is really important. And then in your blog post or on any explanation page, your about page or whatever, don't make it seem overly keyworded, but in your headline and your, you know, mention your main keyword that people would be searching for once. In your subhead, mention it once. In your text, mention it once. And it will, over time, make a difference. So name your images and then mention the keywords that you think people are searching for when they look for you in your headline, subhead, and in your text a couple of times. Don't need to go overboard. It'll eventually work for you. Any other questions about that or anything? Let's see.
Shannon,
Yeah.
where do you suggest putting the like join my newsletter call to action?
Okay. That is a good question. People go back and forth about this pop-up idea. Let me just show you, I'm going to show you something on my website. So say this is a Squarespace website, all right? So they come in these sections, like, you know, when you build a website, it'll be in these different sections that you can add images to. And here's my little valuable free offer. So I say, you know, what are the elements of a great website? And I like to think in terms of the actual elements because I'm working with artists. So see how this offering, this free little offering is different on my website than it would be on, you know, Micah's or whatever. Or even another person who builds websites, but say they build websites for hospitals or businesses, you know, like technical businesses. It would be very different messaging around this. And then here's my little sign up sheet. I also do have a pop-up, but I can control when the pop-up goes up. You can control it to come only when people are going to go away from a page or only after they've clicked on 3 pages from in your site. So it's not right in their face. So that's a different issue. And then here's this sort of question about clarity of purpose. These 3 boxes are what I do. Okay, so I have the coaching program, I build a website, and then I have this course. And see, they're literally in separate boxes. They have separate pictures and they have separate links. So this is the idea around clarity of purpose. Does that answer your question, Wendy?
Yes.
Okay.
It does. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so it looks like people are having to run. So I'm gonna stop now and stop sharing my screen and just say thank you so much for your time. And I appreciate everyone being here. And if there are any more questions, please feel free to email me at hello@shannonborg.com.
Thank you, everybody, for
Thank you,
coming.
Shannon. That was
Wonderful.
I'll be sending out a follow-up email to everybody. And if, you know, and I'll include Shannon's contact information. And look forward to more webinars with Shannon. We have a few more slated with her. And then we also have some coming up on cybersecurity and all different kinds of fun stuff. So hope you all come back and hope you found this helpful. I certainly did. And if you have any questions, please contact us at the EDC. So our phone number is 360-378-2906 or info@sanjuansedc.org. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, Shannon. We really, really appreciate your
So
time.
much.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Mm,